G'day there guys, not actually funny, just uses deadpan humor as a crutch. Welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the A-hole? It's your host Markee. I hope you enjoy your stay here today. Smash that like button, tell me what you thought about these stories down in the comments, and sit back, relax and enjoy. That's all there is to say. Thank you. Posted by user Queen Leaf. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my dad it's not my fault his family is broken and he should blame himself? I'm my dad's oldest child and his only child from his marriage to my mum. My mum was unable to have children after she had me, and my dad always wanted more, so he cheated and slept around, and eventually he and his current wife started an affair, which came out when I was 12. She was 6 months pregnant when me and my mum learned the truth. She also had 3 kids with different guys. He thought everything would be perfect from day one. He expected me to love his new wife and the other kids, and we would be a picture-perfect family. But I was pissed, not gonna lie, and I didn't accept his wife or her kids or my half-brother when he was born, or for a long time after it. They would enforce family time, and it always sucked. One day when I was 16, I told them I was there to see my dad, not play families or go along with the charade anymore. And we weren't a family, and I didn't give a crap about any of them except my dad. I think I also might have told him that he was number 1 on my crap list, but maybe I said that after he pulled me aside. I stopped going to his house after that, and there were no more attempts made at being a family. His wife's kids were super upset and extra ticked that I would dare deny them or not want to spend time with them. My dad and I have a rocky and mostly estranged relationship now. The last time we for real talked was 4 years ago, when I graduated high school. But the other night he showed up and told me that it was all my fault that everything was so broken because of what I said that day. He told me all he wanted was his family to be happy, but I wouldn't let it happen. I refused to let him blame me, so I told him that it was not my fault. I was a kid who was thrown into a crappy situation after having her family broken up. I told him it was his fault and he should think about that. He tried to argue, so I said he was a cheating piece of crap who thought he could get everything he wanted. I told him it was dumb to expect me to love the woman he cheated with day one and jump up and down because she had kids, and that things rarely, if ever, work out that way when you create a family through cheating and humiliating someone the way he humiliated my mum, by bringing up her infertility. I finished by calling him a crappy person. Am I the a-hole? Did I go too far? I don't think you went too far for this one. He's the one that cheated, didn't apologize to anyone, and expected it to just rug sweep itself? Like, that's not how reality works, mates. You can't just get away with all this crap and expect your son to accept it. You have done nothing to earn your son's respect in this situation, Mr. Father. And OP, I feel like your feelings are valid in this situation. You calling him a crappy person was justified, and I don't even think you went far enough. Gonna go with you're not the a-hole, and you wouldn't be the a-hole if you went a little bit further. Not the a-hole. Your father sounds self-centered and like one of those parents that piously tell themselves they have a right to move on and find happiness, yet refuse to accept that they have no possible right to dictate how others feel. Your father wants you to go along with his game of happy families, because if you do, he can pat himself on the back and tell himself that he did nothing wrong, that it has all worked out for the best. By not playing along with the idea that you love his affair partner and her brood, you make it harder for him to pretend that his selfishness did not hurt you. Right? It's all about getting what he wants and making him look good. It's like all the hurt and pain he caused didn't matter if I was able and willing to embrace the mistakes he made, and love the people he brought into my life through his crappy and screwed up actions. Precisely. He's fighting against the idea that he did something wrong when he cheated on your mother, and chose to put his desire to have additional children ahead of his responsibility to the child he already had. He wants you to tell him that you are happy and that you love his new family, because that would allow him to tell himself that ultimately, he did the right thing for everybody. You owe him nothing, least of all absolution. I think the worst thing about all of that is, even after it all exploded in his face and he lost me, he still doesn't want to try and fix his relationship with me. He just wants me to slide into the family he thinks he deserves and love, or even fake love them to make himself feel better. He doesn't care enough to put work into his relationship with me. Thankfully, I'm in a much better place than I was when I was 16, but man, would it have broken me to know he would still not care about his relationship with me 6 years later. I would have been so heartbroken. Ultimately, you both have a choice to make. He can choose to honor your wishes and have a relationship with you separate to his other family. You're an adult now, so it's feasible for you to meet up with your father for dinner 1-to-1. If he insists that he and his new family are a package deal and that he won't see you without them in the mix, he has to accept that you're entitled to decide that you don't want a relationship on those terms. He needs to decide which is most important, the happy blended family that exists only in his selfish fantasies, or his chance to have a relationship with you. On your side of the equation, you need to decide where the line is drawn for you. You are not an a-hole if you feel that you only want a relationship with your father, but you need to be ready for the possibility that he will cling to his fantasy, even at the expense of your relationship. And OP replies, I don't want one anymore. Younger me sure did, and that was why I got so angry and said what I did. I am now just at a point where I know a relationship won't happen. Doesn't mean it wouldn't be nice if he attempted to work on our relationship, but it didn't break my heart the way it would have 6 years ago. Posted by user Been There Done That 3, titled, Am I the a-hole for reporting my professor after she filed an incident report because I emailed her because I thought it was unfair that she wouldn't let me participate in a graded class activity? I am a first-year grad student. I was a student who received at least high Bs, but mostly mid to high As in high school and undergrad. This semester, I have 2 100% and an 82% in my classes. I don't want to sound like that person who doesn't take responsibility or blames other people for their bad grades, but I truly believe that I'm getting a bad grade in my one class because of the way the professor teaches grades and assesses our learning. Case in point, the situation at hand. Last week, a rough draft of our final essay was due. I by no means half-assed it, but since it was a rough draft, it wasn't exactly my best work. This week, we were supposed to be given another classmate's rough draft to peer review. Instead of getting a rough draft, I got an email from my professor stating my rough draft was not to her standards and I would not be able to participate in the peer review assignments. This resulted in a 5 out of 10 for my rough draft and a 0 out of 10 for the peer review assignment. I emailed her saying that I didn't think it was fair to give me a 0 for missing an assignment when she wouldn't even let me participate in it. She responded saying that she didn't think it was fair to make someone peer review my rough draft when it wasn't very good. She added that a few other people were in the same boat and there were also a few other students who didn't even submit a rough draft. I responded by saying I didn't care about other students, I cared about me missing out on points and not even being given a chance. I should add that I also work as a graduate assistant and have access to a system that shows all incident twirls received. Sometimes during my office hours, I go through and read them. I came across one from my professor about me saying I had sent her an irate email that was borderline harassment. It wasn't. The strongest words I used were unfair and ridiculous. I then reported her for blowing my email out of proportion. I was then contacted by the head of the department saying she had filed a formal complaint, saying that she felt even more harassed and targeted because I had complained about her. Am I the a-hole for being upset I got a 0 and reporting her? I don't know enough about university and graduate programs like this personally, so I couldn't give an actual opinion myself. So really I had to go to the comments to get an understanding of the situation. It's a mixed split between everyone sucks here and you're the a-hole, and going by that I think that's fair. Having access to those confidential emails and then reporting her as a result of that could be an abuse of power in some sense. And I guess the professor has more knowledge and experience and justification for their actions than OP has. So because of that, it's a mixed bag. I'm gonna go more you're the a-hole OP. MM172 says, Everyone sucks here. I think you had every right to complain about her imposing a restriction on the peer review process without warning or providing sufficient guidance on how to avoid that possibility. But she has every right to complain about you abusing your access to what was supposed to be a confidential email. And unfortunately for you, I suspect that's going to be taken a lot more seriously. Doesn't the professor know that the dean, department head, etc. can read her emails? They aren't private, so they could easily find out the professor is lying about the email. It may not be lying so much as a difference of opinion about how irate the email was. And I'd say emailing a professor multiple times about an assignment when they've already stated their policy is bordering on harassment. Info. Was there a rubric or list of expectations for the rough draft? And are there any rules about scrolling the incident reports and clicking into things that aren't part of your workflow? For example, at my job, I can look at all sorts of personal files. I'm only allowed to look at files that explicitly relate to my current work. Anything else is a breach of both ethics and the rules. And OP replies, there was a rubric for the final draft. I have yet been given the comments as to why exactly my rough draft was not to her standards. These reports are in an incoming report queue that I am encouraged to read. While I work in housing, all reports show up in the same queue. Would you have opened it if you didn't know it was about you? On slow days, I literally read all new incoming reports. This doesn't sound professional in the slightest. Davja93 says, yes, you are the a-hole. For context, I teach at a university and have experience of teaching at 2 different institutions. Firstly, I don't think her grading system was unfair. It is entirely within her rights to exclude you from the peer review task, since it wouldn't be fair to the other students to make them peer review your subpar work. Consequently, it would not be possible to assign any mark for the peer review assignment since you won't be taking part. It is also completely reasonable that you should be penalized for the peer review assignments, since it's a direct result of you not doing work for the class. It's not a matter of not being given the chance of doing the assignments, but that you cannot do the assignments as a direct result of your actions. That is, it is your fault that you cannot do the assignments, so she cannot but give you 0. At the same time, it would be entirely unfair, both to her and the others in the class, to provide an alternative assignment for you to do, since your classmates might have preferred to do that assignment or might have performed better in that assignment, but they did not have that option. And since your professor is already being so underpaid that creating more work for her without extra payment would be unethical. Given that the professor basically had no other option than to grade you as she did, and given that it's all due to your substandard work, her grading seems very fair to me. I would have done just the same. If you hadn't perhaps called her or her grading ridiculous, and perhaps asked to discuss it in person or over Zoom to explain your side of the story, she perhaps might have relented and offered an alternative task, despite the fact that she will have to do extra work without getting paid. Though I still think that it's unfair on your classmates. Secondly, I do think that it's unethical for you to read her incident twirl. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Is this an official complaint? About you. Professors should have a way of complaining about and reporting their students in confidence. If this happened to me, I would have gone straight to the administration and told them to change the procedures or get the faculty board to reassess the procedures. Thirdly, I can't comment on how justified she is in calling your exchanges with your professor as irate, since you don't provide the correspondence. But generally speaking, calling your professor or their grading ridiculous is unadvisable. Get them on your side and ask them to explain their reasoning. They should be happy to do that, and then ask for help or offer other ways to remedy the situation. Again, they should be happy to suggest ways. I assume she considered your response to her explanation of the situation as borderline harassment if you continued to claim your grades were unfair or biased, or that she was being ridiculous without engaging with her arguments or explaining your own in a calm and reasoned way. That would be borderline harassment. I'm not sure I'd make an official complaint about you, but I would certainly vent to other professors in the department, for my own sanity and to warn them about you. All this isn't to say I'm not sympathetic. I'm sorry you got some bad grades, but I would be more concerned at the moment that you are now being considered a troublemaker by the people in your department. Posted by user throw719away018. Titled, Am I the a-hole for getting pissed and telling my husband and kids to get out of my ass and stop following me? You heard that right, out of my ass. Title sounds bad, but hear me out. I'm 44 female and my husband is 46 male, and our kids are 12 female and 14 male. None of them have boundaries, and I mean like not even the slightest of boundaries. Most mornings, as soon as my husband, who gets up before me, hears me get up, he is immediately up my ass, like follows me into the bathroom or stands directly behind me when I'm making coffee, to a point where I am literally tripping over him and feeling boxed in. My kids are the exact same way. Both my husband and I work for home and homeschool the kids, so I know this is not merely a they just miss you issue. We also do family activities every night from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m, so it's not a you don't spend enough time with them issue either. So like I said, my kids are the same way as my husband is. They will stand behind me, directly behind me, whenever I'm washing dishes, cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, etc. My 12-year-old even insists on touching my shoulder from the back seat while I'm driving. The tip of the iceberg was these past 4 days. I've brought up multiple times with all of them that I need space. Personal space. I've discussed boundaries, and they literally laugh. But these past 4 days, I've been on some very important business calls, and then to top it off, I get a call saying that my mum's in the hospital. She broke her hip, and I can't be there due to the pandemic. Every single effing time I'm on the phone, all 3 of them have repetitive questions. Who are you talking to? Is it important? If I shush them, they say, well, and expect me to answer them. So finally I fudging had it and screamed at them to get out of my fudging ass and to stop following me. Again, they effing laughed and carried on, so I locked myself in the bedroom, which yes, they did continuously walk by the door, which is at the far end of a dead-end hallway. My father is saying I'm a fudging dick. I was on the phone with him at the time of my outburst, and that I should be happy they still want you because most husbands and children are estranged once you've been together for a while and grow up. Am I the a-hole? Okay, I know I've used this word sparingly in the past, but this is a genuine fever dream scenario brought to real life. This could be a new genre of nightmare that I have of people continuously touching me, bugging me, interrupting me, following me around, touching me while I'm driving. I can't imagine how I deal with that on top of the compounding stress from the business calls and the mother being in the hospital and the uncertainty of life and these guys not wanting to listen to you. My God, I cannot blame you for the outburst, and screw your dad for getting up you for that. He doesn't understand the situation, and I bet if you explained it to him, he wouldn't want to understand because you shouldn't be blowing up at people like that. But hey, obviously that's not always going to happen. Sometimes people are empathetical and understand where you're coming from, but not always, and maybe that would set her off over the edge even more. This is all to say that I can't blame OP at all for blowing up. I would leave the house for a few days and tell them you need to chill. This is the punishment that you get for not leaving me alone when I told you to. I'm gonna go take some time to calm down. Not the a-hole, and you would not be the a-hole if more happened from here. Not the a-hole. It seems that your husband has taught your children to disrespect you and your boundaries, and that's not even remotely okay. It sounds like you all need some serious family counseling, even if it has to be by phone because of the pandemic. I would have reacted the same way if I felt cornered and boxed in and ignored. My says, when I was teaching, I'd hate when the kids would just come up and touch me for no reason. Like, do you really need to interrupt me so bad that you need to put your hands on me? Also, when did you last wash your hands? It's self-centered to an extreme and leads to kids who can't and won't stop attention-seeking. They aren't the center of the universe, and they need to learn that even to their own parents, they are not the center of it all the goddamn time. Not the a-hole. The fact they laughed at you would be enough to pack a bag and your laptop and get a hotel for a couple of days. Let them deal with the house and all the crap that goes with it. If they still don't respect you, thanks to their dad, maybe you need to rethink things. He's teaching them disrespect and gaslighting. It's pure crap. I think OP should make a bigger deal about the fact that her husband is teaching their kid to mock people's explicit boundaries, feelings, and grievances. The lack of personal space is obviously incredibly annoying, but I could easily see it being the sort of thing where OP's husband was just raised by parents who had that dynamic, and the less clingy one just put up with it, and it's subtle enough that he doesn't even know he's doing it, or it's never really occurred to him that following your spouse into the bathroom is weird and annoying. These habits suck ass, but they are not necessarily malicious. But as a distinct behavior of its own, mocking and dismissing someone who is trying to explain their needs to you and teaching your kids to do the same, that's beyond the pale of general decency, past the point where you could call it well-intentioned with plausible deniability, and is just really horrific parental malpractice. It's not just his marriage he's ruining. He's sabotaging his kids' relationships with their mother, and he's instilling habits that will poison every relationship they will ever have, and over the course of their lives could get them fired, ostracized, expelled, arrested, killed. People who can't listen to others' needs and respect them don't function in society. Them laughing at her is malicious AF. I'm sorry if you don't see that, but laughing in someone's face is demeaning and disgusting. Perhaps it's never happened to you, but the shame and embarrassment of having a person or persons who say they love you laugh in your face is so disheartening and shameful. Posted by user lowtaro7746, titled, "Am I the a-hole for wanting to post about buying a house just so my ex will see it?" So I, 29 male, and my ex, 29 female, broke up back in July. Since then I've moved away from the area we were living in, gotten a new job paying twice what I was making before while doing 2/3 of the work, and am closing on a house next week. She, on the other hand, has dated 4 different guys, 3 of which she cycled through in less than a week, and tore the rear axle out of her truck, that I did most of the work on. She keeps posting junk on Facebook saying how pathetic some guys are because they can't figure out when to move on, and how she's never gonna take the loser back now that she has a real man. I've been ignoring it for the most part, just removing it when she tags me in things. Then this past weekend, one of her friends messaged me to say that I really need to stop waiting for her because she's happy and will never take me back. I don't want her back, and that it's sad that you can't even find a girl to try and make her jealous. I've been working 60+ hours a week to raise money to buy a house. So, finally, am I the a-hole for wanting to post something on Facebook about how, while some people were only thinking about finding someone else to take care of their things, I was working my ass off to be able to stand on my own 2 feet? I think it's obvious in this situation she just wants attention from you, and if she gets that attention, you're just going to be validating her feelings. And I don't know what she will do and what she will say to people if you suddenly flex on her. Obviously, you can choose to be an a-hole and post your success online and tag her in that and be like, haha, I'm doing better than you, you suck. But that would make you an a-hole in this situation. If you don't do it, you'll be the bigger man and you'll move on. And I suggest just cutting her out of your life completely. So, in a sense, you are the a-hole for wanting to post something on Facebook, and you would be an a-hole for doing it, but she sucks too, so it would be an everyone sucks here situation. Edit. Thank you all for your input and advice. I can see now that it's better to completely remove her from everything and ignore her. As much as I really want to be petty and throw all this in her face, it's been made clear by a few people that doing so would not only put me on her level, but give her ammunition to start drama. I'm still going to share the news with my friends and family once everything is signed and done, and just completely cut my ex out of everything and not mention her to anyone. AITA says, "Everyone sucks here. Unfriend or at least unfollow her. If you were actually over her, you wouldn't care what she does online or anywhere else." I don't think it's that simple. She's literally tagging him in posts, talking crap about him, and it doesn't matter if he's friends with her or not, as long as she knows his name. He's not engaging with her at all, and even removing her posts from his feed, and a flying monkey literally messaged him of his own accord. I don't think he should make the post because it'd just be fanning the flames, but I'd be lying if I said I don't want to watch the flames like Edna from The Incredibles. He can block her, and she won't be able to tag anyone. Yeah, but then he wouldn't be able to think about her and make this post. I'm not going to pass judgment, but I say post away, but I'm petty AF. But really, you need to just delete her and her friends and be done with her once and for all. Agreed that he just needs to be done with her, he gains nothing out of being petty. Alright, that's where I think I'm going to end today's episode, guys. As always, I really do hope you learned something or just really enjoyed the posts that were put up today. Quick shout out to all my new and existing Patreon and channel members. You should be able to see your name on screen right now, and if you don't, then I don't think you're part of the club, and you really should join the club because it's a great club. And I want to thank every single one of you guys for supporting me in this journey. It really means so much to me, and I love you all so much for it. Thank you for helping me out. As you can tell, I'm now happy and healthy back in Australia. Thank God it's not cold like Ireland. I don't like wearing jumpers everywhere. I prefer the heat. Thank you very much. I know that's an unpopular opinion. Anyway, guys, I really do hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you later. Bye.